Please come to order for the Ascension Parish Council regular meeting of January 4th, 2018. Please stand for the prayer to be given by Councilman Cluott and the pledge.
Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. Once more that we ask you look for the people around the region and look upon everyone in this freezing weather. Let us look to our neighbors to take care of them. Lord, it's with a heavy heart and special thoughts that we ask prayers for the Vicnair family of Sorrento for the loss of Milton Needlenose Vicnair, longtime council member and community activist. Lord, it's also we ask that you look at the Gaucher family and keep them in your thoughts for the loss of Miss Lynn Gaucher, the stepmother of our council secretary, Cinnamon. We also ask that you look at the Pinell family and the Turner family, and we ask that you take care of them through their time of need for the loss of Councilman Turner's grandmother, Miss Ethel Pinell. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam Secretary, all the council persons are here tonight. Under the chair additions, the first item that we have is we'd like to consider moving the January 18th meeting to January the 25th. January 18th is police jury convention.
Motion to put it on the agenda, sir. Second.
A motion by Councilman Cluott, second by Councilman Lawler. Any opposition? Be added to the agenda at item number 6C. Okay, the second item for the chair's addition tonight is the 2018 election of chairman and vice chairman. So I have a couple of notes I'd like to read before we begin. So these are just procedures that we should be following and where they come from. So the chairman and the vice chair will be elected by a majority vote of members present and voting. It cannot be a secret ballot, it must be a voice vote. Nominations will be taken from the floor and need not be seconded. More than one person is nominated, we'll have a roll call vote with members responding with their choice. If more than one nominated, and I'm one of those, then I will pass the chair over to Mr. Joseph. And so we'll begin that process. So now nominations are in order for the office of chairman.
I nominate Bill Dawson.
Okay, we have Mr. Satterley has nominated myself for that position. Are there any other nominations for the position of chairman? Hearing none, the nominations are closed, and by acclamation, will be elected. Thank you very much for your confidence, and I look forward to working with everybody during the rest of the year. Next, we'll have nominations for the position of vice chair.
Nominate Randy Cluott as vice chair.
I now have Mr. Todd Lambert nominated Mr. Randy Cluott for vice chair. Any further nominations for the position of vice chair? Any further nominations for the position of vice chair?
I'll nominate Oliver Joseph.
We have Mr. Lawler has nominated Mr. Joseph. Any further nominations for the position of vice chair? Hearing none, those nominations will be closed. Madam Secretary, we have two nominees, Mr. Joseph and Mr. Cluott. If you will, do a roll call by district, and the members will indicate their choice of those nominees.
Do Randy Cluott first. Councilman
No,
Cluott.
you
No,
doing
do a choice, so we'll call on each member, then they will give you their choice of candidates.
Okay. Councilman Joseph.
Myself.
Councilman Turner.
Councilman Joseph.
Councilman Satterley.
Oliver Joseph.
Councilman Dempsey Lambert.
Randy Cluott.
Councilman Randy Cluott.
Myself.
Councilman Lawler.
Oliver Joseph.
Councilwoman Casso.
Councilman Joseph, please.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
Randy Cluott.
Councilman Cagnalotti.
Randy Cluott.
Councilman Johnson.
Randy Cluott.
Okay.
Chairman Dawson.
Votes for Mr. Joseph.
You have 6 for Councilman Joseph, 5 for Councilman Cluott.
So Mr. Joseph is elected.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Do we have a public sign-in period? So if anybody has any comments on any agenda item, please come to the podium, fill out a card, turn that in to Ms. McKee. Parish President's report, Mr. Matassa, do you have something?
I don't really have anything other than I'm going to get Mr. Daniels to give you all a report. Everybody knows the hard freeze we had and the problems we had with the water company in Donaldsonville, which is a very old system, and there's things we need to do. But this, anytime Niagara Falls freezes up, we had problems, okay? So I'm going to bring Mr. Daniels up to explain y'all where we're at and everything about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, honorary members of the council. So on the evening of Tuesday, and I'm kind of lost track of the time and dates, but I think it was Tuesday, the operators at the water plant noticed that the water levels were high and that they were losing their reserve. Based on their training and their experience, usually at night, water consumption goes down, so they thought that at that time water consumption would continue to fall. Unfortunately, as we know, because of the hard freeze and frozen pipes that were bursting and people running their water to keep their pipes from bursting, water use actually increased, and by the time that they recognized what was happening, their reserves were fairly dwindling. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, shift change. They contacted me about 6 a.m. I was out there about 7:30 or so, and so we started assessing the situation. Our reserves were completely gone. We'd lost all the water in the elevated storage. We still had some water out on Highway 70, which was feeding the jail and some places. We made our first priority to get the hospital, the dialysis center, and the nursing home back online. So we were able to get that system pressurized, and we started feeding that. I think we thought we had just that part isolated, but we didn't. We thought we were looking at the valves and we had isolated that, but as it turned out, we had a lot more water going to the people, the residents of the parish. Unfortunately, we couldn't get everybody. We were estimating we got about 80% that day. We lowered the pressure. We had to keep the pressure up for the dialysis center, but after the dialysis center closed, we lowered the pressure. We started filling up our reserve. This morning at 4 a.m. we came in, we started opening everybody up. We'd hoped to have them open a lot sooner, but as we were opening valves, we were finding new leaks, and we were trying to take care of those leaks as we went along. I think finally everybody in the parish got water. Everybody in Donaldsonville that's served by PUA got water about 9 a.m. Since then, we've been keeping the water pressure probably in the range of 50 pounds for the entire system. We've managed to build up our reserve a little bit. at 7 tonight when the dialysis center closes and we don't need the 50 pounds in their system. We're going to lower the pressure to about 25 pounds, and we're going to move water into the elevated storage and start catching up, and hopefully over the weekend we'll be able to catch up. So that's pretty well the story of what happened, except for I would like to say that there's a really lot of dedicated utility employees that were out working many hours in very difficult conditions, and I'm extremely proud of them. And I'd also like to say thank you to the people who didn't have water, and thank you for their patience. I understand that it was more than an inconvenience, and in some cases, it was really difficult. But everybody was, for the most part, everybody was very nice and cooperative, and so this is an experience that I hope we don't ever have to repeat, but as always, there's been some valuable lessons learned, and we will incorporate those into our operating procedures moving forward. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, Mr. William Day, once again, I want to commend all the workers, the parish workers, everyone. They did team together and really perform an outstanding job. I mean, the employees, but one of the things, and I was there with you.
Yes, you were. And you were very helpful.
We learned a lot about the system we purchased, and and I know you're going to go in details in the future on it, but the system is desperate need help.
Yes, it is.
In the future, and but the employees that we have did an outstanding job. They stood up to task. Unfortunately, we had to go through this during an ice storm, a cold spell. But lesson learned, and hopefully we're going to solve all those problems. But once again, outstanding job by the workers.
Well, and I was remiss not to point out you were there for many, many hours helping us and providing a lot of good common sense suggestions, and I certainly appreciate your participation in that as well.
Mr. Satterley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Daniel. I would like to say, well, I'd like to echo, first of all, what OJ said, commend the folks that, of course, had to work overtime and so forth to minimize the problems that the water shortage produced. That said, however, I do have a question, and it is this, sir. Do we have, for the PUA, Parish Utilities of Ascension, any standard operating procedures in place that would state, or better yet, maybe describe in detail procedures that we need to follow in anticipation of this thing has been called an Arctic blast down here in the deep south? I would look at it as just a multiple days of hard freezing, and we know what that does to pipes and so forth, and causes, of course, people to drip their faucets, etc. So, again, do we have any SOPs in place that state what the procedures would be in anticipation of multiple days of hard freezing to put more water in storage to provide for the fact that folks are going to, drip their faucets and we're going to have broken pipes?
To my knowledge, there were no SOPs for this kind of weather event. The storage prior to the event was the same amount of operating storage that we kept all the time. So, which would have normally been adequate, except for, as you say, cold weather exposes all the vulnerabilities of pipe, and there were plenty of vulnerabilities that got exposed.
Okay, thank you. And so, since there were none in place, are you or someone else with the proper expertise going to write such SOPs so that we'd have that in the future?
We'd actually started writing, we actually hired someone to write the SOPs prior to this event. So we have someone on board, and it was also very helpful to have that gentleman there as well. So he learned a lot as well, so he was in the office today working on the SOPs, so we hope to have a full, complete set of SOPs written over time.
Thank you for your honesty.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
Yeah, when we bought this facility back, I guess a couple of years back, we knew we had a lot of issues with it when we bought it. I was a little leery about it. Matter of fact, I voted against buying it because lesson learned. We're learning now that it could have been a mistake, and we don't, what about the water that we're losing on a normal basis? Have we found out where we're losing millions of gallons of water at?
Well, yes, sir. Some of the water we have determined we're not really losing. It's just kind of being recirculated, and there's some way of, the meter that's actually measuring the water is, check valve is leaking and it's flowing back in. So it's, but when it's getting counted as water that's lost. So we found quite a bit of the water. It actually hadn't gone anywhere.
Next thing, as far as the price that we charge the residents, are we breaking even or we in the black with the facility?
I would suggest that we're not in the black.
Were we supposed to raise the rates up at any time? I thought the rates were supposed to go up after we purchase it.
Well, my understanding was that prior to the purchase, which I think was about a year ago, Peoples had requested a rate increase from the Public Service Commission. However, when we bought the system, we have not yet raised it. Several council members have kind of tasked me with coming up with a profit and loss statement current, which I'm going to have for the next utility meeting. And then I'm going to try to put together a capital improvement plan because we need quite a few improvements to the system. And then hopefully with that information, we'll be able to come up with a price a rate increase that will satisfy those conditions.
Because if we're losing money now and we need all this capital projects done, and we're charging still the lower rate than what's supposed to be charged, I don't think parish government can just keep on going in the red and paying out every year. I don't know where we're getting the funds from. Our utility fund is not that strong.
I would agree it's never a good idea to lose money, whether it's government or private business, but in government especially, you're spending taxpayers' money.
Right, and we were always told that water will make money. Sewer, no, but water, a little lesser maintenance, and you can break even with water. And
I think we will. I've been here about 3 months now.
How much are we losing right now per year? Can anybody answer that question?
I got the updated financials right towards the end of the Christmas vacation, and I'll get those to you. Yes, sir.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Dempsey Lambert.
Mr. Daniels, I know what you've done in East Baton Rouge Parish with the sewage. How long are you going to come to the utilities with some suggestions, or?
Yes, sir.
What is your projection to clean this up?
I really hesitate to project at this point in time.
Well,
I'd like to actually look at it. I've been running from one thing to the other, trying to do a number of different projects to get those going. I'm going to spend more time concentrating. I've spent quite a bit of time at the plant the last 48 hours, so I have a much better grasp of what's going on out there now. I wished it wasn't under those conditions, but unfortunately that was the hand that we were dealt. So, but I hope to have something here in the very near future for you.
Appreciate that.
One quick thing.
Mr. Lambert.
And when can we see the increase in rates to help match us?
We'll be proposing something, I think, to you.
Okay.
And so I thank y'all for your questions. I hope I answered them to your satisfaction. I would like to just reiterate again, just the selfless effort of all the utility people that were working through the night with very little sleep in very difficult conditions. I was amazed and honored to be working with them. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Item number 6, the consent agenda. You want me to do these two? Got A, adoption of November 2nd, 2017 regular council meeting minutes. B, adoption of November 30th, 2017 regular council meeting minutes.
Motion to approve is consent.
Got a motion by Councilwoman Casso, second by Councilman Lawler. Any discussion? Any opposition? Mr.
Just a reminder, I think we added C to that.
Yes, C is not, I didn't mean to put that under the consent agenda. I just meant for it to come after the consent agenda. So we have these items A and B. Any opposition? Consent agenda is adopted. Now we have the next item, which is to move the next meeting from January 18th to January 25th.
Motion to move.
A motion by Councilman Kluhat, second by Councilwoman Casso. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion is adopted. Thank you. Committee recommendations. Item number 7, consideration of proposed amendments to the Ascension Parish Pay Classification Plan, Section 16-1 of the Code of Ordinance, last amended January 8, 2009. These next 3 items, as you're, I'm sure, aware, these are the 3 items from last night's Finance Committee meeting, and what these are on the agenda for is to start the ordinance process. So these will, if these are approved tonight, then they'll be handed off to draft the ordinances and bring them back for introduction. Okay. We have item number 7.
You gonna read them?
Well, read the agenda item. You've got the, we put those up on Novus, is that correct, Ms. McKee?
Have the minutes from last night's meeting for each of those.
Have the minutes, which includes what this proposed amendments are. Is that correct? If I'm not mistaken, those are the pay classification plan that was as presented, except for we removed 48, 49, 50, and then we removed the 3 positions.
Motion to approve.
Second.
To move to ordinance.
A motion by Councilwoman Casso, second by Mr. Satterley. Any discussion?
Yeah, real quick, just repeat what we removed last night.
Okay. I'll ask Ms. McKee, if do you have it in front of you?
Was to remove
I don't want to trust my
parish
memory.
president, the chief administrative officer, assistant,
And the,
and
Let's let.
and I can't remember, I think the last one.
Have you got it in front of you, Aaron? I'm sorry.
COO.
I apologize.
Yes,
So-
it's the exclusion of the positions of parish president, chief administrative officer, assistant, and chief operating officer from the pay classification plan. And we're also excluding pay grades 140, 139, and 138 from the pay classification pay plan also. And those are the classifications for the parish president, and then 139 and 140 were the levels above it that we had nobody in it anyway.
Yeah, and I just wanted to, simple explanation once more, because remember that what the consultant Christelle said last night is that, we're adopting this, we're moving toward adopting it, is that there are some variables in there that probably still need to be worked on. So this is, maybe not written in stone at this point.
So let's remember this will be drafted, the ordinance will be drafted, it'll be introduced at the January 25th meeting now, and then for the first meeting in February, will be taken up for consideration. Okay, any further discussion, questions? Any opposition? Hearing none. It's adopted. Item number 7. Item number 8, consideration of proposed amendments to the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinance, Chapter 2, Article 7, Departments of Parish Government, last amended 5/15/08 to create departments and/or divisions. Finance Committee recommendations. Mr. Law, do you have that?
Yes, I do have it in front of me.
Go ahead.
A motion was made and seconded to forward to the full council for approval to draft, into it, An ordinance to ratify the existing departments of Finance, Human Resources, Public Works, Utilities, and Planning and Development, and to create the following departments: Lamar Dixon, Infrastructure Division, and the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. Excuse me.
We struck emergency preparedness. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
That's correct. They struck.
That was done later, yeah, that was done later on.
And did we talked briefly about, remember, mental health? Is it there? Is it there?
We
Well,
added that to
this
the
is,
list.
this is not in that. These are that are ratified.
Okay.
I think all that was, all we did to that is, have you got the minutes there?
Yeah, these are them,
So we removed emergency preparedness.
correct. And pursuant to, I believe that state law that has to report directly to the president cannot be ratified.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Casso, second by Mr. Joseph. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion's adopted. Item number 9. Item number 9 has the this is consideration of proposed ordinance to codify organization chart. So there's the organization chart here and two companion ordinances. So if you will,
Do you want me to read the complete?
the organization chart, could we go over the changes that we proposed on? There was an amendment to move purchasing and,
Yes, there was an amendment to move purchasing and grants. First of all, to remove the orange finance box, and just to have the treasurer / Department of Finance. There was an amendment to move grants and purchasing to report to that box there, that division there, but to be below the ratification line. There was also, I want to get this straight, trying to find it.
To have the CFO answer directly to the
Council,
parish
council
president.
secretaries.
So I believe that there was a solid line.
Yeah.
Replace the solid line. See, the current dotted line between the parish council and the council secretary would be replaced with a solid line, and the current solid line between the parish president and the council secretary would be replaced with a dotted line. And the Homeland Security Emergency Preparedness Division would be moved below the ratification line and as a direct line from that office to the parish presidents, per state law.
Mr. Cluart.
And didn't we have one more thing that,
We did.
the treasurer
The CFO would
directly to
answer
the parish
directly.
Finance goes directly to the president.
And that was a little further down. I didn't scroll down that far. You're correct.
Okay.
So the treasurer will report directly to the parish president. Would you like me to read that again, get it all?
Oh, I got it.
Oh, we got it.
Just want everybody else to have it.
Okay, so
Motion to approve.
we'll handle these in 3 separate votes as we did in the finance, so.
Okay.
Do we have a motion? This was in the discussion. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Cluart.
Yeah, once again, I disagree with the organizational chart based on the parish secretary.
Okay.
That I still have not, from legal, I haven't got clear on that, and the fact that we got a co-employment issue, and I think our charter kind of states where the parish secretary, he or she stands in relation to the organization. Do you have any?
I will have an opinion before we introduce the ordinance. That's what I worked on other stuff today. It just happened last
Yeah.
night.
Okay.
I just saw that revision last night.
Motion to introduce.
Second.
It's
Adopt.
not an introduction, it's a
Adopt.
motion to
No.
move.
To move forward, I'm
To
sorry.
move forward. I
Inappropriate
thought we
word.
had the motion. Okay, so we have a
Stand
motion by
corrected.
Councilwoman Casso, second by Councilman Lawler. Any discussion? Any further discussion? Any opposition?
I oppose.
I'm opposed.
In opposition, we need a roll call. Ms. McKee.
Councilman Joseph,
Yes.
Councilman Turner,
Yes.
Councilman Satterly,
Yes.
Councilman Dempsey Lambert. No. Councilman Cluott,
No.
Councilman Lawler,
Yes.
Councilwoman Casso,
Yes.
Councilman Todd Lambert,
No.
Councilman Cagnalotti.
No.
Councilman Johnson.
No.
Chairman Dawson,
Yes.
6-5.
We have do you have a copy of this, of the second ordinance? This is the one to
The ratification.
the ratification. Can you read that quickly? And it had a change in there where it, we removed the reference to the organization chart and replaced that with the actual departments.
You want me to read the whole ordinance?
What's the desire of the council? Do you want to
She's
hear?
gonna be reading it at the introduction, and
Yeah, do you want to hear it, or do, you know, we made the change, so if you maybe just read the change.
Just
that'd be
read the
good.
change. Yeah.
It's in your packet.
Here, I'll read it. I have it right here in front of me. The only change, yeah, I'll be the scribe tonight. The change was that the positions below are subject to ratification. Parish Treasurer, Secretary of Governing Authority, Chief Administrative Officer, Department of Public Works Director, Human Resources Director, Planning and Development Director, Utilities Director, Lamar Dixon Director, Infrastructure Division Director. Removed from this was organizational chart, the term.
Okay.
So we listed specifically which positions had to be ratified.
Okay, so that's a proposed ordinance.
I'll make a motion to move
We have a
forward.
motion by Councilman
Second.
Lawler, second by Councilwoman Casso. Discussion? Opposition? No opposition. That moves forward. The last one is the council secretary reporting to the council. There were no changes to that, no amendments to that in the finance.
Motion to approve?
A motion by Councilman Satterley to approve, second by Councilwoman Casso. Discussion. Opposition. At opposition, Ms. McKeek, would you do a roll call, please?
Councilman Joseph,
Yes.
Councilman Turner,
Yes.
Councilman Satterley,
Yes.
Councilman Dempsey Lambert.
No.
Councilman Kluat,
No.
Councilman Lawler,
Yes.
Councilwoman Casso,
Yes.
Councilman Todd Lambert,
no.
Councilman Cagnolati.
No.
Councilman Johnson.
No.
Chairman Dawson,
Yes,
6-5. 6 yeas, 5 nays.
that's adopted. Under general business, item number 10, approval of request for quote for scrap metal removal from various locations throughout Ascension Parish, Darrell and Berthelot Purchasing.
Good evening.
Good evening.
On December 21st, 2017, the Purchasing Department received 2 quotes for scrap metal removal from various locations throughout Ascension Parish. Quotes were received from WB Scrap LLC and Abear Scrap Metal. After review, the Purchasing Department and the Department of Public Works recommends accepting the quotes submitted by WB Scrap LLC and to authorize the parish president to enter into any applicable agreement or contract for this project.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Cagnolati.
Discussion.
Got discussion, Mr. Kluat.
Yeah, real quick. So we're paying somebody to remove scrap
No,
metal?
sir. They're paying us.
Okay.
It's a refund.
So you accepting WB scrap?
Yes, sir.
They paying $140 a ton?
For the trucks and cars and vans.
So you-
175 a ton for the tractors and 175 per
Okay,
ton
so
for
you
the
just left it at
miscellaneous.
deposit. Yeah. Okay.
Sir.
You left it all together.
Yes, sir.
Good deal.
Further discussion? Opposition? Hearing none, that motion is adopted.
Thank you.
Item number 12, introduction of ordinance to amend this, I'm sorry, item number 11, introduction of ordinance to authorize the parish of Ascension to purchase or acquire right-of-way and/or servitude for Babin Road Bridge replacement.
Motion to introduce.
Motion to introduce by Councilman Todd Lambert.
Second.
Motion to ordinance is introduced. Number 12, introduction of ordinance to amend Ascension Parish Unified Land Code, Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-4010.b, related to maintenance surety bonds.
Motion to introduce.
Got a motion to introduce.
Second.
Ordinance is introduced. Item number 13, introduction of ordinance to acquire property in conjunction with acquisition of St. Jude Sewer System.
Motion to introduce.
Got a motion to introduce. Ordinance is introduced. Public hearings. Reading of ordinance modification of Unified Land Code related to contract agreements. Mr. Parrington.
To amend Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 1 zoning tables, Table A permitted uses by district, and Appendix 2 Development Code, Section 172060 drainage and traffic through Section 172072 structure and lot regulations. Whereas Ascension Parish's local government subdivision is defined by Article 6, Section 44 Louisiana Constitution 1974. Whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing authority and responsible body over the zoning regulations within the jurisdiction. Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish adopted May 4th, 1993 identifies the process and manner in which adopt ordinances regulating the lands of the parish. Now be it ordained by the Ascension Parish governing authority that the Unified Land Development Code of Ascension Parish, Appendix 1 zoning tables, Table A permitted uses by district is amended to remove all reference to contract agreements as more fully described in Exhibit B attached here to and made a part hereof in Appendix 2 Development Code, Section 2060 drainage and traffic through 1772 structure and lot requirements as amended is more fully described in Exhibit A attached here to and made a part hereof. Any portion of this ordinance ever held invalid or unconstitutional by any reason of any court of competent jurisdiction over such portion shall be deemed separate, distinct, independent provision, shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of the ordinance. The effective date of this ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance shall be submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Open public
hearing.
comment.
Motion by Councilman Saturday. Open the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Casso. Any opposition? Public hearing is open.
Motion to
We have
close.
a motion to close.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Casso. Any opposition? Public hearing is closed. The ordinance.
Move the ordinance.
Got a motion by Councilman Satterley to move the ordinance.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Casso. Discussion. Opposition. Ordinance is adopted. Item number 17, reading of the ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 12, fees pertaining to contract agreements. Mr. Parrington.
To amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 7 fees, whereas Ascension Parish local government subdivision defined by Article 6, Section 44 Louisiana Constitution 1974, and whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing authority and responsible body over zoning and regulations within its jurisdiction. Whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish adopted May 4th, 1993 identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of the parish. Now therefore be it ordained by the Ascension Parish governing authority that the Unified Land Development Code of Ascension Parish, Appendix 7 fees is amended to remove all references to contract agreements more fully described in Exhibit A attached here to and made part hereof. Deletions are in, additions to underline. In the event any portion of this ordinance ever held invalid or unconstitutional by any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over such portion shall be deemed separate, distinct, and independent provisions shall not affect the validity of any portions of the ordinance. The ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Open public comment.
Motion to open the public hearing. Second to open the public hearing.
Motion to close.
You got a motion to close the public hearing. Second to close the public hearing. The ordinance.
Motion, move the ordinance.
Got a motion by Councilman Satterley to move the ordinance.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lawler. Discussion. Any opposition? Ordinance is adopted. Item number 20, reading of ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Personnel Policy Manual to allow transfer of sick time for employees in need. Mr. Parrington.
To amend Section 16.1 of Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances adopted by Ascension Parish Council on June 20th, 1996, adopting an official personnel policy manual for the Parish of Ascension to include sick donation policy. Whereas the Parish of Ascension, through the Ascension Parish Council in the lawful session, passed an ordinance adopting an official personnel policy for the Parish of Ascension. Whereas the original ordinance established a uniform system for managing personnel matters to assure compliance with applicable state and federal laws and provide for standard terms and conditions of employment in the Parish of Ascension. Whereas the manual is in need of revision. Now therefore be it ordained the Ascension Parish Council does hereby authorize the amendment proposed by the Human Resources Department and submitted by the Parish President attached here to and made a part hereof as Exhibit A to include a sick donation policy whereby a full-time employee may voluntarily donate by donation and or receive accrued sick time under sick donation plan in the Personnel Policy Manual, Article 4, Employee Benefits P, Sick Donation Policy. The ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Public hearing. Got a motion by Councilwoman Casso, second by Councilman Lawler to open the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Got a motion to close. Councilman Joseph.
Second.
Second by Councilman Casso. Got a motion by Councilman Cluot to move the ordinance, second by Councilman Joseph. Discussion.
One question.
Mr. Lambert.
Administration, how does a sick leave account for as an individual? How do they accumulate their sick leave? So much a year, so much per a month?
They're accrued monthly,
Okay.
and then first you can't take it in the next 9 days,
And it rolls over every year?
plus in retirement, you can get paid for so much, but what it is to help our employees out that, in fact, everyone has cancer
Right.
now. And we use up all of their time. There's criteria for the human resource plan. For example, if I want to put 40 hours of mine in there, you don't give it to the person, you put it in the fund, which is going to be, we're going to give you all the quotes on that.
Cool.
We copied it off from another.
Yeah.
Create something brand new. Just copy it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Pastor Fred. That's all I got, Mr. Chair.
Discussion, further discussion. Opposition. Ordinance is adopted. Item number 23, reading of the ordinance to authorize the purchase of 5.437 acres of property from BASF for the purchase price of $1. Mr. Parrington.
To authorize to purchase and to purchase 5.473 acres of property from BASF for the purchase price of $1 for the Ashland-St. Landry extension. Whereas there's a need of purpose of purchase of property in order to allow the extension of St. Landry to Ashland Road. Whereas the Parish of Ascension desires to purchase certain property more fully described and attached to Exhibit A from BASF Corporation in the amount of $1 in order to construct said extension. Whereas the parish desires to enter into an act of sale agreement with BASF. Whereas the Parish of Ascension desires to authorize the parish printer to enter the act of sale agreement subject to the approval of the parish attorney. Whereas the Parish of Ascension hereby desires to purchase the property as per law, as per attached act of sale agreement Exhibit B, and authorizes the office of the parish president to do whatever necessary to purchase said property as per law in the best interest of the parish. Therefore, be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Council that the parish hereby does agree to purchase the property more fully described in the act of sale attached hereto and made a part hereof as Exhibit A, based on the terms and conditions contained in the agreement. The parish agrees to purchase the removed property more particularly described as Exhibit E, attached hereto and made a part hereof. The parish shall purchase the property for the full sum of $1. The parish authorizes the parish president to execute any and all documents required to complete the act of sale of the property. In the event the parish president deems it appropriate, advisable, necessary, the parish president is authorized to acquire title insurance to protect the parish ownership and the interest of the property. This ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon as follows.
Motion open public.
Got a motion by Councilman Cluett to open the public hearing, second by Councilman Cagnolati.
Motion
Got a motion by Councilman Cluett to close, second by Councilman Joseph. Got a motion by Councilman Cluett to move the ordinance, second by Councilman Cagnolati. Discussion. Opposition.
I just want to make a comment, if I may, please.
Ms. Casso.
Yeah, I wanted to thank the administration. I know that this was a kind of a challenging discussion, and I appreciate that you all pursued it and nailed it down. We thank you very much for that. This is a tremendous benefit to the parish.
You know,
Okay.
this has been in negotiations for a long time, and the first piece of property had a lot of wetlands.
Right.
And so we've been meeting, and BASF carved it out for us and helped us where it will cost us mitigation. But I am meeting with the rest of the plants on that road to try to do this project together with them, because it will really benefit them. Any other outlets helps Lamar Dixon Road, but it will benefit the plant. So I talked to a couple of them already, and they're interested in, and we're going to try to put it all together and to do it together. Thank you.
Good job, kid.
Ms. Casso.
I want to continue in my comments to thank BASF. I mean, what an amazing contribution they're making. They're a wonderful community partner, and we appreciate them and their employees very much.
Okay, further discussion. Mr. Cluett.
Real quick, I want to chime in also and thank you guys and thank BASF, Tom, you're in that bunch. That this, right now, we do have the Edenborn connector, and we've got the new lane coming in on Highway 30 that's going to take us back to the interstate from Ashland. I feel like we felt for years now that this connector is going to be the one that's going to make the Edenborn connector work as a normal path for normal traffic, daily traffic, not just event traffic. And this is a much better place that everybody's worked to put this road than where we talked about 3 years ago at least. It was bad, the other place. We could have done it, but it would have cost us a lot more and been a lot longer, so hope to see this on the fast track. Thank you.
Mr. Cagnalotti.
I'd also like to comment and thank the administration for their hard work in this effort. Any traffic relief on Highway 30, believe me, a lot of friends, a lot of constituents in my district work in the plants, and they were looking for some relief. Once this is completed, like Randy said, it'll be a straight shot all the way from Ashland Road to get to 44 and the interstate that way, or head toward the Sunshine Bridge down River Road. So it's a long time overdue. Thank y'all for your hard work. Appreciate that. And of course, thank you for the industrial partners, BASF in particular.
Further discussion. A motion and a second. Any opposition? Ordinance is adopted. Executive session.
Motion to.
A motion by Councilwoman Casso, second by Mr. Joseph, to go into executive session. Any opposition? Roll call.
Councilman Joseph.
Yes.
Councilman Turner.
Yes.
Councilman Satterley.
Yes.
Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Councilman Kluat.
Yes.
Councilman Lawler.
Yes.
Councilwoman Casso.
Yes.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
Yes.
Councilman Cagnalotti.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Dawson.
Yes.
Motion to reconvene.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Lambert, second by Councilman Cagnalotti to come out of the executive session.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve a $20,000 settlement authority in this matter.
Motion by Councilman Lawler, second by Councilman Joseph. Any discussion, any opposition? Motion is adopted.
Move we adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Councilman
Second.
Cagnalotti, second by Councilman Casso. Any opposition? Adjourn.